In this video, we'll be looking at the causes and effects of globalization. But just as a starting point, it is important to clarify what exactly is meant by globalization. So globalization is the increasing integration of national economies. So let's start by looking at some of the causes of globalization. The first cause is that technology has improved, and this has had many implications. For example, we can communicate faster. This means increased amounts of knowledge can be shared. This means that we can do business and trade more easily. International financial markets are there, and this means that money, particularly hot money and capital, is able to shift between countries by the click of a button, and this encourages borrowing, lending, buying, trading, all this between countries. Another implication of technology. Also, we can see that former communist countries such as Russia have followed the free market ideology, and they have become more open to trade, and trade liberalization has occurred, and this has helped to form one integrated international trade system. Over the past 50 years, there has been a reduction in trade barriers, which is as a result of the World Trade Organization encouraging countries to do so. And also there's been a push for trade blocs such as the European Union and NAFTA, ASEAN to have formed, and this has encouraged trade by getting rid of the trade barriers between these sets of countries. Some more causes of globalization include that there have been cheaper transport costs, particularly since the 1980s. It's been cheaper to transport goods, encouraging trade. We easily have access to international currencies. This has allowed us to buy and sell and visit different countries. Transnational corporations, they have helped to integrate the world. McDonald's has located in several locations. This brings countries together because the same business is working in these countries. We have increased knowledge and information about TNCs and different global economies and how they work through the media and the press and technology, as mentioned before. And also these have helped create demand for products which might not have been in these countries before. So for example, in places like India and China, fast food might not have existed, but TNCs, media, technology has created the demand, and firms are willing to take the opportunity to increase their market share, power and profits, and so on. Globalization has had many benefits. For example, it has increased the world output and wealth. Why? Because countries are specializing, division of labor is occurring on a more larger scale, and absolute and comparative advantage means that we have a more greater output, and this has led to increased consumer welfare by lowering price and increasing quantity. The government role is also minimized through free market ideology, and more states basically retreating from communism. Also, by being tied up to different countries through trade, there is a benefit that we are less likely to engage in war or some sort of conflict with these countries, simply because we rely on them for goods and the world will not function without them. So since the Second World War, there's been a real push towards trade blocs and globalization. And as I'll mention in the next slide, when we look at costs, one of the costs is that globalization has widened the gap between the richest and the poorest. However, what supporters say is that although it may create inequalities due to the greater output, etc., however, the advantages like increased consumer welfare and increased technology and so on means that in the long run, everyone is better off and we're heading for a better world. So now looking at some of the costs, we already discussed that the gap between the richest and the poorest has been widened. Another thing is that economic shocks such as the recession hits countries faster because we rely on each other for goods. So if one country goes into a recession, so they might start producing less goods, this will affect another country and so on. Then you have externalities, pollution, etc. And comparative advantage means that manufactured goods are usually produced in countries with lower environmental standards, and basically it's not good for the environment. Poor countries may also have less power, as transnational corporations sometimes have more power than poor countries, and this gives them a chance to exploit the countries, and it's not good, let's say, morally, to put it like that. Poverty, the number of African countries in debt has grown due to globalization. This is also, however, we must remember that a lot of this debt has been written off. And in the in countries which are more developed and they're more service sector, there have been job losses because there's been a structural change, and this has led to structural unemployment. In the 21st century, none of the costs of global trading and globalization appear to be even more worrying than that of environmental degradation. That globalization has led to. Our constant traveling and transportation of goods has led to externalities such as pollution, which in turn causes acid rain, change in salinity in water, etc. The increased number of products may reduce price, but has led to litter problems. For example, there is not enough land to convert into landfills, and even the ocean has been a victim of this. We have even named an area or a stretch of the ocean which is so badly affected by litter, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Why should economists care about this? At the end of the day, the environment is a cost, which costs firms and consumers, even if we exclude costs such as the carbon emission ones set by the government. Furthermore, without a sustainable environment, all that globalization and economics works for, i.e. a perfect world where the gap between the rich and poor is minimal, etc., is rubbish. As the environment provides a foundation for economics, whether it be through resources or humans. Thank you for watching. Please visit my blog for the transcript to this video.